our understanding to it. Just read how much more that you love us, God. We just pray, be with our people, God, with those that are away from us, Lord, those that are sick, need to touch every hand. Lord God, we ask these things, dear God, in Jesus' name.
Amen. All right. Nikki had brought up, she'd like to learn about, like why we have like service times, you know what I mean, or why we do 2 on Sunday and 1 at midweek. Why is it that way and not another way? And so I thought that was kind of interesting. So that's what we kind of dove into and got this all planned out. So, but basically, we'll start off in Genesis chapter number 2. That's the front.
I'm saying, more than once, those things sing the song.
Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. The Bible says, "Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the 7th day God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the 7th day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made." All right, so pretty self-explanatory, but God created everything in 6 days, from dividing the lights, in the night and day, all the way to man, all done in 6 days. We all know that, but he rested on the 7th day. And it says that he blessed the 7th day and sanctified it so 7th day is blessed and sanctified by commemorating his work and how good it was. So his work was good. Everything he said was good. All except for that man was alone. That's the only thing he said that wasn't good. But so it was so good that he rested from his labor and took a day and just reflected on what he did in that. So that's pretty good right there. And so I've got the definition of sanctified here. It says made holy or made free of sin, set apart to sacred duty or use. So he sanctified the 7th day, set it apart. He made it a holy day, set it apart for sacred use and or duty. So that's that's pretty cool. I never really caught that. I know he rested on the 7th day, but I never really caught that he blessed and sanctified it. That was pretty cool to come into. But so going on this, if you start with the 6th day on our calendar, it would be Saturday, which we'll get into in a little bit. But so he rested on the 6th day, or on the 7th day, and later on he commands us to do so. So let's go to Exodus, chapter number 20. Verse 8. 20, verse 8. So, you remember this from, was it Monday? Yeah, Monday when we read this. But this is the 10 Commandments. God's speaking to each and every person there, all the Jewish people, speaking to them. And one of the commandments that he says is verse number 8, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, or thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So this is one of the 10 Commandments here, is to remember the Sabbath day. Not just remember it, but remember to keep it holy. So we're supposed to keep this day holy. God made it holy. He sanctified it to be holy. And then He commands His people to keep it holy. And then, so how do we do that? Obviously by worshiping the Lord. So God did His part to make it holy, and it's our job to keep this day holy. And that, anybody got anything so far? All right, let's go to Exodus chapter number 29. So we've got the day set apart that He says to remember, keep holy. So that's why we have service on that day. But this is why we have two services. 29, 37 through 46. Bible says, 7 days thou shalt make an atonement for the altar, and sanctify it, and it shall be an altar most holy. Whatsoever toucheth the altar shall be holy. Now this is that which thou shalt offer upon the altar, 2 lambs of the first year, day by day, continually. The one lamb thou shalt offer in the morning, and the other lamb thou shalt offer at evening. And with the one lamb, a 10th deal of flour mingled with the 4th part of an hin of beaten oil, and the 4th part of an hin of wine for a drink offering. And the other lamb thou shalt offer at even, and thou shalt do thereto according to the meat offering of the morning, and according to the drink offering thereof for a sweet savor, an offering made by fire unto the Lord. This shall be a continual burnt offering throughout your generations at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before the Lord, where I will meet you to speak there unto thee. And there I will meet with the children of Israel, and the tabernacle shall be sanctified by my glory. And I will sanctify the tabernacle of the congregation, and the altar I will sanctify, but also both Aaron and his sons to minister to me in the priest's office. And I will dwell among the children of Israel, and will be their God, and they shall know that I am the Lord their God, that brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, that I may dwell among them. I am the Lord their God. All right, so He's given them, this is to the Levitical priest, He's given them commandment in the morning, offer up a burnt offering, in the evening, offer up a burnt offering. It was a continuous thing. It says, continually throughout your generations. This is something that you got to do. This is how they worshiped God back in the day, was through the Levitical priest. That the priest did everything for them. So this was their form of worship. So this is where that we kind of get the whole serving, having service morning and evening due to this, and that to keep this going, and that praise the Lord. Also, we just one more church. I think it's weird for there to only be a morning service, and that you think of morning and evening. And that's pretty much the general consensus throughout the majority of Protestant churches. But literally, the Jews, they did nothing on the Sabbath day. They literally did nothing, and that the priest was the only one that did anything. So they cooked their meals the day before. They didn't tend their fields or their cattle or anything. Their cattle wasn't even allowed to do anything. Their cattle had to be put up in the pen and just, rest, is what God said. So they literally just they just sat there and did nothing but, reflect on the fact that God rested on that day. He made this day holy, and that's why we're doing this. Let's see how serious it is. Go to Numbers 15:32. If anybody's got anything, you can go right ahead.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
And, I've had this question for a long time, actually. I just never asked it because I believe or not. Yeah, but I've wondered it for a long time. And like, I mean, I don't like just at first glance, I will say I've never really felt like, still think it's just, and all that, but like, are we even technically now supposed to like not do any work on something? Like, and I'm not saying that to be funny, but like some people like really do believe that on Sundays it's supposed to be a day of rest. Like, I'm not saying I'd be lying to you if I didn't say I didn't mow my lawn on Sunday afternoon if I was home and didn't feel like to go anywhere. But like, do you think maybe that God still has that expectation for us now?
I think as long as it doesn't get in the way of their worship, because we're under a different covenant now. Now should we choose to, work on Sunday instead of, what I mean? Yeah, instead of going to church. He's not going.
That's a different conversation.
We are still to remember the Sabbath day. And we're still to keep it holy. Getting into a little bit later, we won't actually worship on the Sabbath day, technically. But our calendars will very similar to theirs, but a little different. But there is a reason why we do Sunday. But I mean, I don't think that if you work in third shift and after church you got to go into work. I don't think you got to not do that.
Right.
But I mean, if it's keeping you from church or the whole time during service,
I mean,
maybe get rid of it.
Right.
That's what I was going to say, to keep your mind off of it. It's like you were saying, it's reflection. I mean, God didn't really have to rest, literally. He didn't like, man, this is a lot of work. He's perfect. He read that. It just, I mean, it's a good analogy because it's to reflect on things like that. But if you're doing something between services or after service and you can't do that, then that's what it's talking about. If you can't reflect on your week like you're supposed to be, I can mow the grass and I can talk to God. I can do that.
Some of the best knowledge.
I can do that. I can spend time with my family when we were working on the deck a couple Sundays ago. We were talking and reflect things like that. It wasn't keeping me from being able to appreciate it.
Well, on the flip side, not trying to like keep us going too long too, but like on the flip side too, you have some that will say, "Oh yeah, I don't need to be in church on Sunday. I can actually worship God on my boat instead of going to the house of God." Assembling myself. I've actually had a few people that say that, and it's like I did not feel right. It does not. I don't feel like it lines up.
That's one of the biggest lies around health and safety itself, so that you're not in church. You know what I mean? If there's something comes up that you absolutely can't. You know what I mean? Of course, you can worship God wherever. You know what I mean? Make sure you're worshiping. You know what I mean? You're reflecting. You know what I mean? You're praying. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. You go on vacation. You know what I mean? So, to me, on vacation, you know what I mean? I'm still thinking about church all day long on Sunday. You know what I mean? If I'm on vacation, you know what I mean? So, keeping it holy is the whole thing. Set apart. He set it apart for holiness and sacred duty. So, you know what I mean? That's sufficient. Anybody else?
The world is going to say what Jesus said. He healed on the Sabbath day. Tried to rail on it. What you do with that? We'll just say a cow. It fell in the ditch. Out of the ditch. On the Sabbath day.
And they had nothing to say about that.
What could they say?
It's just like if you put your heart
out, just put them in the place. Then I'm the Lord, even on the Sabbath.
get a flat tire on your way to church, you're supposed to just sit there.
Until the next day.
Sorry,
or if
kid,
you put
we're here.
your car, or if you put your car in the snowbank, or you're supposed to leave your car in the snowbank until I would walk all the way to church with me.
I believe that.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
believe that would be working. So you have to sit there. You couldn't walk.
Now, there are some that, say that they won't support other people that are working on Sunday. Marshall Huddleston said
I
that.
can go out to eat them.
Yeah. There's quite a few.
Somebody else
Yeah.
to work.
Yeah. Where do I stand on that? If that's your conviction, whatever, what I mean? That person chose, to work on that day, or maybe they didn't, but they
Maybe they
chose
were
to stay there, yeah. But,
Whenever I worked as a restaurant manager, we were open on Sundays, so I had to schedule people for
Yeah.
Sundays. It was my job. I had to do
Yeah.
that. But anytime anybody said, "Can I go to church?"
Yeah.
or I can't work Sundays. I mean, there were people that would say, "Hey, Aaron, can I go to church with you?" I'd be like, "Yeah, I'll find somebody else to work it, or they'll just be short-handed."
yeah.
But that's how I always felt about it. If
Yeah.
somebody really was convicted not to work on a Sunday,
Yeah.
I did my best to try to make
Yeah.
sure they didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
But if I wasn't there, they would have had to figure out a way, whether it be quit or whatever, to get out of that. But if it's their choice, if they're deciding to do that, then that's their.
They have the same commandment we do.
Right.
So at the very least there, so one way you look at it, am I working for that food? No. So I'm staying in my commitment. Are they working to give me that food? Yes. But that is their choice.
Right.
That you can always find, I don't want to go too far and say you can always find another job. Maybe that's the only job that they can have. But if you really didn't want, God would make a way. So, yeah. If people want to go that far, they can. It's no skin off my back.
Right.
I go out to eat on Sunday.
Yeah.
Don't feel convicted about it whatsoever. So,
I agree completely.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking.
No, he said.
I said it.
Oh,
All right, thank you. Oh, I was just gonna say too, though, yeah, and I agree with what you said. I think it's a matter of like, are you putting it before God, or are you, and the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I really have had people that have said it, where they try to use different things as an excuse to try to say, oh, well, I think the Sabbath. This is just what they said. I'm not saying it's biblical, but I think the Sabbath is on Saturday, so I don't do anything on Saturday. Or they say, oh, well, I don't have to go to church to serve God, is the common excuse I've heard. But it's like the Bible says that they're not to assemble yourselves as the manner of some is. And they had a problem with that back in their time. Like you run into those people that try to say, oh, yeah, well, any time's the Sabbath. They try to say all these different things.
Yeah, people are going to try to weasel their way out every day. Or into something. It's, like what Donnie says, people's people.
Well, it just blows your mind. How do you find fault in someone being healed?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, you're just looking.
Yeah. They're just trying to get them. They were just trying to get them to catch up so they can find a fault, just one single fault. And they can say, you're not the Christ. But they couldn't.
One big excuse I hear is they fight it.
Oh, yeah. Somebody else?
I think it takes a lot of faith. Someone that typically has to work on a Sunday to just put their faith in God that He will give them something else.
Yeah, that
that He will
I'm gonna say.
provide.
It's scary. I left the
Yeah.
job because they wouldn't give me somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I worked there for years,
That's-
and they moved me to another department, and they said, sorry, but you have to work Sundays in here. And I did for a while until I got saved. And I said, I can't work Sundays anymore. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it. And they said, well, you're going to have to. And I said, well, I quit. But it was easier for me to do it because I didn't have the responsibilities of, I didn't have kids. I lived with my mom. I was 21 years old, but I didn't have real responsibilities yet. And so it was easy for me to just say, okay, well, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to work here anymore. But it's still, I knew that I still needed a job. I still had bills to pay. But at that point, I knew that God was going to provide whatever I needed after that. Because I was standing on Him for that purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's not going to punish you for standing for
No,
it.
Right. Amen.
No.
Well, and just like when I first got saved, I worked every single Sunday. I worked actually every Wednesday. And God made way for me to come to church. But as soon as I got saved, I was like you. I went into HR and I just told them, I said, I'm not working Sundays. And they, of course, which I fully believe in, say, I'm not trying to sound weird, like they went and said, oh, well, your grandfather didn't do the Sunday shift differential, so you're going to lose that if you don't work Sundays. And I said, yeah, that was that. But there was a long time I couldn't make Wednesday for a very long time, and it bothered me a lot. It really got under my skin because I had a desire to be there. And I finally, when everything, including work and stuff, full time, and trying to go to church and actually be a Christian, I feel, I remember going in there and cutting my hours drastically. Part of that cut was I'm not working. And I never did ever since. Like, they weren't happy, but God made a way for me to keep my job, and I had everything I needed. I just put
if they don't want to lose you, they're gonna take it. You know what I mean? Honestly. And, you're gonna have, your cool bosses like Aaron, you know what I mean? I understand you know what I mean? You're gonna go to church, I'll let you have that day off. Can you work Saturday? Most of the time if you go and ask them for Sundays off, you know what I mean? Somebody is willing to say, hey, I'll work your Sunday if you work my Saturday. Somebody that's lost, you know what I mean?
That's how I was at Walmart when I was working there because I was a manager. I had to work one of the weekend days. And so I said, I will work every Saturday. I don't care. I will work every Saturday, give me Sundays off. And they did that for years.
Yeah.
So God will take care of it.
He will.
If that's your real desire, He will make it happen.
I mean, like my dad said, He's not going to punish you for doing what He says. You know what I mean? He's not going to.
You also got to understand, you going in there telling them, hey, I can't work Sundays anymore, and you tell them why, and you're witnessing that.
Yes.
You understand? Like, we're going to cut your hours, you're going to lose money, and you saying it's worth it.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty good witness to someone.
That's the way it's got to be. Whatever I can't work something.
Amen.
And you don't blow up in their face or
And even then, you don't even got to be rude about it either. You just go in there and say, hey, I do care about my job, however, I'm no longer available on these days. Most majority of the time you say, hey, I'm not available Wednesday night and Sunday, most churches are in session.
Yes.
I know when Nick started doing the inventories and everything, he always did them on Sunday. He literally got serious with God. How they do them during the week.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do them Sundays.
Yeah.
They haven't in years. We'll make one.
He will make one.
He will make one.
He does it everything else, He'll do it in that too. I mean, my goodness.
There are going to be the times where you can't help it. Where they're going to say, then that's where you stand. Or, and believe me, I don't think God's going to, put the zap on you because you got called into work.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if they say, look, dude, there's like 2 or 3 Sundays. You know what I mean?
He's understanding.
Yeah.
If you say, hey, I can't work Sundays anymore, they say, well, after that, it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, God's not going to be mad at you for holding up to your responsibility that you
Right.
Right.
But Sundays, a lot of times when I was at Arby's, we had to do our inventory on Sundays. It was company wide. Sunday after close, we had to do the inventory. So I would take Sunday off, and then after Sunday night service, whatever, I would go in for an hour and do the inventory, and then be done.
Yeah.
And never felt any conviction ever doing that because it didn't get in the way or anything. It was 10 o'clock at night. I was there by myself. It was actually kind of nice to deal with being there by myself with my own thoughts and things instead of, hey, Aaron, can you do this or that? But yeah, never felt bad about it. And people knew why I wasn't coming in to do that until too. Because I made sure to tell people, hey, I'm not missing church. So I'll come in at 10 o'clock and I'll do stuff like that. We really got off topic there.
Yeah. I mean, it's how important it is. I mean, we're getting ready to read 37 through 40. Nope, I'm sorry, 32 through 36. But
Numbers 15.
yeah, numbers 15, 32. I mean, it's, God, but he's got, I mean, it's important. I mean, it was more important under the law because things weren't spiritual then, you know what I mean? Didn't have a way to be. But it's still important. We'll see in the New Testament, it's important. But 32. And while the children of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man that gathered sticks on the Sabbath day. And they that found him gathering sticks brought him unto Moses and Aaron and unto all the congregation. And they put him in ward because he was not declared what should be done to him. And the Lord said unto Moses, the man shall be surely put to death. All the congregation shall stone him with stones without the camp. And all the congregation brought him without the camp, and stoned him with stones, and he died as the Lord commanded. So, do we think that's harsh? I mean, reading it, but just before this, he was telling them, don't work on the Sabbath. You know what I mean? And here this guy just deliberately goes out. I don't know if it was deliberate or if he forgot or what, but he went out and he, started picking up sticks. I mean, that's what God considered work. He wasn't reflecting on, what was happening, what God did and why he did it and how holy that God made this day. And everybody in whole camp, had to stone him to death. It seems innocent enough, but the Sabbath is blessed and sanctified by God for specific purposes, to give God glory and not personal agendas or personal gain. It was an important thing, and it still is. God going to command everybody in our church to stone the guy that has to work on the Sunday? No, he's not going to. You know what I mean? Now,
Look at 30. Read 30.
But the soul that doeth aught presumptuously, whether he be born in the land or a stranger, the same reproacheth the Lord. The same reproach of the Lord, and that soul shall be cut off from among his people.
No.
Yeah.
He knew he should have done it Saturday.
Right.
Right? I mean, being a sluggard by not doing it Saturday. Knowing we did it.
Yeah.
So that's the same, as choosing something else over God.
God said don't do it, maybe you did. I mean, God's just in everything he does. He's just in everything he does, whether we think it's just or not. It's still just. Because he's God. He's so far above our ways that we can't even shake a stick. You know what I mean? So, praise the Lord. this was their way to worship and honor God. They stayed in their tent, just literally got up to get the meal that was already prepared the next day or the day before, eat so that they sustained, themselves and just followed God. This was their way to honor God, was to do this. Not work on the Sabbath day to reflect on it. So, now we're getting into that. Anybody got anything on that? Now we're getting into after the grace plan.
They couldn't have personal conviction.
Mm-hmm.
They were told what to do by somebody else. They didn't have a personal relationship with God like we did. So there wasn't, he couldn't just pick and choose. It had to be straight down the line for everybody because there was no way for him to say it's okay for one person, not that, because he's not talking to that person.
How would that make God look if he let it slide?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, God doesn't mean what he says it means. You know what I mean? That's how they would look at it. I can do whatever I want because God says it's going to be punishment. He doesn't punish when it comes time to it. Same with, children. You let them go too long, they start thinking they can walk away, without they don't punish them. So,
that goes with Sunday school, Sunday.
Yeah.
Knowingly.
Knowingly. Yeah.
Knowingly lied about it.
Yeah, same thing. They knew to do good, but they did it not, so therefore it was sin. Anybody else? Okay. So after the grace plan, now everyone can partake as a priest, or kings and priests. You know what I mean? That's what he made us. So no longer are they relying on, Adam to go in there, or Aaron, I'm sorry. I'm looking right at Aaron. His name's Aaron, and I call him Adam. Don't have to rely on Aaron.
His brother's name's Adam.
But they don't have to rely on it. They had everything that was given to God had to be given to the Levitical priest. Now it's not that way, thank God. We're kings and priests, and we have the Spirit in us to worship with. And then he said, what did Jesus say to the woman at the well? Believe me, here in just a little bit, you're not going to be worshiping the way you did. God's a spirit, you're going to worship in spirit and in truth. No longer just the Levitical priesthood offering up to God. Okay, so now we're getting into where it changes from how we got to Sunday. So, so around 300 BC, give or take a little bit, it was proposed to have Sunday declared the Lord's Day. Okay? The Jewish people still are Saturday, but Christians have said, why don't we make Sunday the Lord's Day? And they do that. You say, well, why did they have to change it? Well, for one, the grace plan kind of changed it a bit, but also this was due to no longer being under Jewish tradition anymore. Also because Jesus arose on Sunday, and the day of Pentecost was on Sunday. So they said, if he arose, sanctifying us, forgiving our sins and making it, to where we can go to heaven, and gave us the Spirit, all this was done on Sunday. Let's make Sunday the Lord's Day. And everybody said, you know what I mean? And God's obviously okay with it. You know what I mean? It's been that way for quite a while. 1,700 years. So God's obviously okay with it. Because I've had that question, like, if Saturday's a Sabbath day, why would we worship on Sunday, not Saturday? I actually started to think, well, maybe I need to change that. You know what I mean? But knowing the reasoning behind it, it makes perfect sense. You know what I mean? they said, he rose on a Sunday. We're no longer Jewish. We're not under their tradition is their tradition. We're saved. You know what I mean? We worship Him different. Let's make Sunday. That He gave His Spirit on Sunday. He rose from the dead Sunday. Let's worship. Let's declare, and it's actually called the Lord's Day. I mean, it really is called the Lord's Day. Sunday is. So this meant that those who were Christians now made Sunday the Sabbath. And so Sunday is our Sabbath. And worship is Saturday. But they still kept the day of rest and the morning and evening way of doing things. I mean, it's the day of rest. You worship God, do as little as you can. And reflect on Him and worship morning and evening. So that's it for Sunday and Saturday there. We'll get into midweek here in just a minute if nobody's got anything.
I remember doing well, first off, let me ask, are you going to touch on calendars stuff, or I want to take it there? So I remember studying on, kind of looking at like their calendar, like how like in Daniel it will name like month of the feast. I was looking at and I was looking at their calendar compared to ours because like some people really do get busted up. Like I mean, it's crazy, how some denominations are with it, and like. Actually, I'll just say this. We had neighbors that were it is Saturday. All of y'all are blasphemers on Sunday. But my thing with that is, like, if you look at how the days are, their calendar, theirs is structured and the way ours is structured, they're never going to line up whether it's Saturday or Sunday. Because our calendar in February, unless it's a leap year, we have 28 days in February, and the rest of our calendar days, we also have days Monday through Sunday. And so my thing is like, a lot of people get busted up over this subject, but my thing is if you are at least, I think God knows the hearts of His people. And if you're at least, setting aside, at least, my personal opinion, and maybe I'll be corrected through this, but, I feel like whether you do it Saturday or Sunday, I don't feel like you're wrong as long as you're doing it right. As long as you're setting aside a day for the Lord's Day. And being in remembrance of His Sabbath and and everything He did, I don't think that God's gonna, it'd be different, like we already been talking about, if we were purposely, intentionally putting stuff on the Lord's Day, just not in avoiding church.
Yeah.
But but if you choose to do Saturday or Sunday, I would never feel really led to throw rocks at them for doing it, as long as they're doing it. Yeah. And doing it with the best of their ability, and the whole church is on board. Where they do.
Like us moving our service to do. Did it hurt anybody? No. It really helped our church.
Yeah.
I mean, you're having, you're having your worship. It's all about the worship.
Yeah. As long as you're not trying to just using that as an excuse, like let's have church Saturday this week because Sunday's going to be a nice day.
That's different.
Or during football season.
Yeah.
But their calendar days, so I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, the majority of them are strictly like 30 days, if I remember. I could be wrong, but I'll look that back up again. But so, technically, their Sabbath could have, their seventh day of rest could have fallen on maybe a Tuesday of ours.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you put them side by side, they never are in line.
Yeah. And our calendar is not perfect.
No.
Our calendar is not perfect. Actually, the one that they used before they modified it a couple hundred years ago, they started realizing, hey man, we're 15 days behind. This year. We're going to have to figure this out again. And that actually caused some Catholic church, Catholics. No, we're using the old calendar. But legally, in the land, they said, no, we got a new calendar, and it still ain't perfect. It works, but it's not perfect. That's hence, the leap year, and all that, because it's not perfect, right? But yeah. But I know, heard churches down south that actually, split it up. They have a Saturday night service, which is really like our Sunday morning. And then Sunday morning they have Sunday school and like their evening service type deal. You know what I mean? Like vast majority of people go on Saturday night. You know what I mean? Now, do I think that's a great time? You know what I mean? You're getting your worship and you're worshiping God. I don't think the day really matters. You know what I mean? As much. You know what I mean? Like you said. You know what I mean? But it's National Awards Day on Sunday. You know what I mean? You might as well. You know what I mean? Might as well do it Sunday. You know what I mean? But they say, a church down the road said, you know what, we're switching to Saturdays. Okay.
You did put olive branch with the Thursdays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have a few churches that did midweek on Thursday. I think Salem did.
Yeah.
And they did it so some of the members could visit our place.
But Victor lived like far away, and he wasn't able to get there on Wednesday. So then Thursdays work for him. So Thursday, you know what I mean? I'm there, pastor. I mean, it worked. I mean, they still had a midweek service. Somebody else. So midweek. Okay, so basically, let's go to Acts 2:46. Dad remembers this verse. So it says, and they continuing daily with one accord in the temple and breaking bread from house to house, did eat their meat with gladness and singleness of heart, praising God and having favor with all people. And the Lord added to the church daily such as should be saved. So at the beginning of the church, they met every day. Every day. You know what I mean? They lived church. Church was their life. So the temple was always open. They went to the same temple that, but they did their thing. So the temple was always open, and there were specific times that were set aside for everybody to come in and pray. So over time, though, with the Christians, that kind of dropped off, a little bit. It kind of just with the Sundays, kind of deal, which is, why the other people that aren't enlightened like we are and saved, we have more church than we are. But it's unclear when Wednesday services were started. But there's some speculation, So I know some people say that it was based off how the slaves, back in slavery, got together, in the middle of the week to pray and ask for help. You know what I mean? To have the strength to do what they got to do. They're slaves. You know what I mean? If I don't do this, I need help. They met together, comforted one another, and went to God in prayer. The ones that were saved. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, I thought that was awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Others say that it's from when preachers held revival, because they still had revival. But a lot of them would ask for people to come together at noon to pray. You know what I mean? For the service that day. So they just kind of started. Somehow it all morphed into a midweek service. But eventually, Protestants, they started gathering, and Protestants, just anybody that gathering for prayer on Wednesdays. This was prayer only. Okay? They met literally to pray, during the week. But preaching started breaking out every once in a while, and a lot of churches, not all churches, but a lot of churches have, switched to, let's just have service. You know what I mean? We're here. You know what I mean? Let's worship God. So there's not a whole lot more about the midweek. But so somehow we went from being at church every day to being at church one day to being at church, an extra day every week. So, and I've got on here, just God put this on my heart to be, but I kind of the effects of less church. We often say that people aren't getting saved like they used to. How many times we hear that? How many times have you said it? Personally? Don't see as many saved as we used to. You know what I mean? It's not like it used to be. But the patriarchs, they met every day. They met every single day. And God added every single day to the church, such as would be saved. So, obviously, we're not having as much church, so we're not going to see as many saved. I mean, let's put two and two together. You know what I mean? We have less church, therefore we're going to have less people saved. I'm not saying I got saved, outside of the church. But I was at church, got convicted, and waited till the next day for some stupid reason and got saved. You know what I mean? So, less church is going to equal less people get saved. So the answer that we usually give, to pacify ourselves, is people are more evil. Times are more evil. Times are different. But what's the difference? The difference is less church. I mean, they were impaling Christians on stakes, lighting them on fire to light the road into Rome. Are people really more evil today than that? You know what I mean? I don't think so. You know what I mean? So of course, people aren't going to get saved as much because we aren't having as much church. We're weaker than they were because how do we say it? Man, I wish I could be as strong as what they used to be. They went to church every day. Of course, they're stronger than you. They went to church every single day. You know what I mean? We say we're not as fervent as they were because we have less church. Hebrews 10:25. I don't even have to turn here. Well, maybe I did. Just left it there. Got to keep talking. Not forsaking the assemblings of yourselves together as a manner of some is, but so much more as you see the day approaching. So really, we need to have more church than what they had, because every day we're getting closer. So we should have more church. You know what I mean? And it's not a sinner problem; it's a church problem. Yeah. We went from having church every day down to one day, and now we have 2 days. You can't get people to show up on, you know what I mean? So that's why, you know what I mean, not as many people are getting saved. We don't have a church the way they did. You know what I mean? When we're here, we do, I'm sure. You know what I mean? I'd say they preach just like we did, or, you know what I mean, some psalms like we do, but they did it every day. Man. It was their life. They went every single day to the temple. You know what I mean? Less church, you're going to have less people saved. The times are not different. I mean, we have technology now, but some say that technology made us dumber. Times aren't different. People aren't different. If anything, people are a little bit better. You know what I mean? Evil men that wax worse and worse into that. But we're not out there killing people. You know what I mean? And all that. Some are, but they haven't put us on stakes yet. You know what I mean? And lit us on fire as a street lamp. You know what I mean? Or mean, that's just an excuse we use to explain why, there's not as many people getting saved. When really the explanation is we're not having the same amount of church. You know what I mean? And that's the whole reason, so, that's all I got. Anybody got anything?
Well, they're going to church every single day, and we have a revival, and it's, a week long. By the time we get to the end of that week, we're like, man, I'm not supposed to do this soon, and then it picks up for another week. And
People are furious.
yeah, like, I gave up this week already, now I gotta give up another one.
Yeah.
And,
And our jobs now aren't quite like their jobs were.
right,
I mean, all that technology and tools that we have now makes what we do a whole lot easier. Things get to church easier. They walk to church.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
They had to write a bill.
yeah.
Well, and on the flip side of that too, though, I kind of like you said too. I kind of agree on the other side of that too. Is hear me out too. As a guy that works for a company that furthers technology, I could truthfully say too that it does in some ways kind of dumb us down a little bit. And it's don't even get me started on AI. But anyway, like the point that I'm trying to say is that like we kind of use it as a crutch a little bit, And I remember kind of teaching. Actually, George just kind of reminded me of it. Remember that? I don't know if you remember, James, but remember in the Sunday school class I taught on fellowship, and what it means to be in true unison and true fellowship with each other, and what it means to have that fellowship. And think about that. When you gather together, one thing you don't get, and people might get mad that are listening here. But what I'm saying is, and I know we don't feel that way, but what I'm saying is like couch fellowship is not fellowship. And now I'm not saying that you can't use that tool if you legitimately have a reason that you can't be there. That's a different story. I'm not even meaning that. We're talking about those folks. I'm talking about the people that use it as excuses.
Oh, for sure.
You have zero. You have the Spirit goes with you no matter what. But I'm stronger when I am in unison with my people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they were so powerful in Acts, that you read, is because they're not only just meeting every day, but they had that strong bond not only with God, but because they also had something in common with all their fellow believers that they were surrounded around constantly. So I'm sorry, I firmly believe that it is very different when you are meeting more. Yeah. And I agree completely because the gospel's going out more. People have an opportunity to gather and get strength. There's some times where I'm just so weak I can barely stand, and I come in and yesterday, I didn't feel worthy of anything. I barely could take care of service. I hope that don't scare you, but I just was that's the place I was in. I just wasn't in a place where I felt worthy to do anything.
Yeah.
But then because I was around my people, and because God, God gave me the opportunity to get right with Him and put everything out there aside.
Yeah.
I know it's not the building. I already understand that, but that fellowship is what brings me more in line in where God needs me to be. To be in fellowship means that you're not only just in unison, but you're also, there's something common there.
Yeah.
And common and friendly between, two or more people. But again, when I'm sitting on my couch, that's why we constantly say, like, I'm thankful to have it, and I appreciate that it's there stream, but it is not the same as being able to sit in a pew next to you guys and really worship the Lord with you guys.
It's a game changer for those that are shut in.
Yeah.
It is. I'm sure they're super happy about it.
Yes, absolutely.
But I guarantee you, if they're really shut in and they're watching that, they're wishing they were there.
Yeah, if they're super happy about that, they would be super duper happy.
Yeah, right. They would switch legs with you. They would switch, illnesses with you. I mean, in any chance to get to the house of God. But you got to look no further past. We started having a podcast on Monday night. Who's the ones that are there? The people that are here on Thursday. And I'm not just. Obviously, our church should be here. Everybody, right? But how often do people from other churches pop in? Never. People just pop in. You know what I mean? If I have a preacher come, they'll come. You know what I mean? But there's opportunities for more church, but we've gotten used to our 2 days a week. Yeah. Anything more than that, you're cranking on my time. I will say, Jared comes and Morgan, they come for our fees, our studies. Wasn't able to make it to work today, but yeah, I mean, the ones that would have been in the church daily back then are the ones that are going to jump on an opportunity. For our church, but you have less church, you're going to have less people. You have less church, you're going to have less strength than somebody that's in church every single day. There are preachers out there that literally are booked 50 out of 52 weeks for revivals. You know what I mean? And when they come preach, you're like, oh, wow, that was powerful. They're in church every day.
Right? Yeah.
They're in church every day.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They're powerful. You know what I mean? They have the power of God. So, like Roger Williams comes to mind. You know what I mean? Anytime he preaches, boy, I tell you what, you walk out of there not changed. That's on you, not him. Praise God. And he preaches so many revivals. I mean, you can't hardly book the man for a revival because he's already booked. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a difference.
Yeah.
That's the difference. It's not people more evil or more sinners.
Right.
More sinful. I mean,
More people are out of fellowship.
Mm-hmm. It's not a sinner problem, it's a church problem. But that's what I can dig up on why, we have Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. And Wednesday pretty much is the consensus. Except for you've got the ones that are doing Tuesdays. Buck Smith does his on Tuesday. For a time, Olive Branch did Thursday. Doesn't matter. You have a midweek service. Tradition is Wednesday. But, so, that's it. Anybody got anything else?
Harder for the devil can't creep in as much because what is there to distract you with? Like, what is he going to distract you with? The only thing he can really distract you with is your thoughts, getting lost in them. And even then, it's really not even that because God is just right there and you're just so amused by that's all you're thinking about. So that's why the devil tries to fight so much harder when we're so much closer because that's all we think about. And it's harder for us to get distracted when that's all we're paying attention to.
Being in the church house is important. It's the most important. But if I'm out and I'm with Tim or we're doing something, it's there's a similarity in that too.
Yeah.
If I'm with the brethren, especially brethren in my own church, then it's a lot easier for me to be where I need to be when I got other people around me that are like-minded.
Yeah. Well, the scripture didn't say that they only went to church and daily they were breaking bread from house to house. Yeah. Which house we going to today, guys? After service. You know what I mean? All right. I mean, they were spending their time together.
I think that's what helps so much about Sundays, having it at 2.
Oh, yeah.
Being able to just fellowship here and have lunch and, spend time together. That's why I prefer the Bible studies here than doing the Zoom or whatever it is, because I was distracted by everything that I know I needed to do while I was at home. Sometimes. Sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you see the point there, though. It's just like, and I kind of feel like it's like you said too, though, like, I kind of, it's not that really people have changed in a way. I do feel like in a way too, it's like a faith too. Oh. Because think about it, like, I keep going back to it and mention a lot, and you probably get annoyed with it, but like the first weeks, they took half the cakes of leavened bread and half the first yield of their harvest. Farmers, think of farmers, what they're doing right now. they're planting right now, but they're in harvest season. Think if they had to give everything they harvested out of those fields first to God. That's putting a mess of faith into Him.
Oh yeah.
But it's also not only just giving yourself wholly to Him is what it's symbolic, I believe, of. The other side of that is trusting that also that you wouldn't have any of those things either if they weren't for God. And, and if they had the faith that they had in Him, they'd be stronger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You feel more dependent on Him versus distant from Him.
Yeah.
When at least I feel that way when I distance myself. I mean, I don't purposely do it, but if I miss a day because I'm ill, I feel distant from my people. I just do. It's not that God holds me that is against me. I don't believe. I still believe He's just, but I still feel that distance. I just feel a little detached.
We didn't say it for once we're better together, because we are better together. We're stronger together. We can hold each other up better when we're together, because we're still human and we're gonna get down in the dumps sometimes, and we're gonna because we have stupid emotions, and we're gonna feel all kinds of different things. But if we're together, we can lean on each other with those.
Yeah, man.
We're supposed to bear one another's burdens.
Yep. So fulfilled law of Christ.
But my dad said that I thought it was. I don't know what it was. Yeah, I don't know what it was. It's just that was my first thought when I started talking about giving faith and putting your work, and besides not doing that, I just thought it came in.
That's because Abel, brought a better sacrifice, more perfect sacrifice. But that's the example of it.
Put more effort.
More faith in it. He did it. He put a whole stuff.
The effort was big, so he didn't just say, "Oh, I better do this so I can get it done with." No, he put effort into it for God, and that's what we should. We should put effort into everything.
I miss a service because I'm sick. That next service is harder to get to. It's easier to, my mind goes, well, I can just miss it. It's like that happens to every time I miss the service, sick, whatever the reason is. That next service, there's that little thought that comes into my mind, like, hey, you missed the last one, this one won't hurt. And you didn't get in any trouble for that, why would you get in trouble for this?
Flesh.
Oh,
Yeah. But yeah, that's the thing. The more you're out, the easier it is to stay out.
Oh, for sure.
And I mean, I'm going here 4 days a week now. 4 times, but we have 5 different service type things. If I'm here, I'm not doing something else out there.
Yeah.
So, and if I'm here more, my thoughts are on it more.
Yeah.
Because if you're in revival, your body's tired, but when you're at work, you're thinking that service.
Yeah.
When it's easier for me to be a better Christian outside of the church if I'm going to church.
yes.
So they had it harder than us with being on stakes and burned and killed and headed and all these things. But they had more strength because they were in it.
Yeah. Yep. Amen.
When you and I go overnight fishing, what's our conversation pretty much the entire night?
Most of it is church, some of it's where we catch anything.
You're not casting on the right side.
That's the difference.
Oh, that sounded like a James Perry statement. You have been around me too long.
She's rubbing on. You're rubbing off on her.
How'd the fish turn off on us?
We have 2 accounts. At least 2 accounts. Peter being jailed. Ready to go each time he was loose.
What are his people?
Back to his people. Back to his
And he was married. But he went
He needed strength. Right? He needed strength. I mean, He had just been delivered, but he needed been through something tough.
Yeah.
Something hard. Right?
Yeah.
And he stood. He wanted to be with his people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
something in there.
We got a lot of people that don't feel that anymore.
Yeah.
They don't feel that anymore. That there's strength in the house of God.
Yeah.
On the other. Grateful.
Yeah.
They remember where the strength is.
That's right.
That's been heavy on me for months. Thinking about how many of our elders. We have many that can't come. That truly desire to be here, but we've got many that just won't.
Yeah.
That spot to be in.
Or pop in here and there whenever convenient.
Not that down, but I mean, we should really pray about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of, thinking that we're better than them or something, you know what I mean? Pray for them. I can be in that situation tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, by the grace of God, I'm not.
Go back to Wednesdays. Always happens. When we first got saved in Riverside on Wednesday night, we'd meet together, call prayer service. We'd sing songs, and then Brother Neil would teach on a Wednesday night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he would have a lesson on Wednesday night, but it wasn't long after that. He just had service. I mean, God just takes over.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah.
Now, if people get together, Lord is magnified.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to take it and He's going to use it the way that He sees fit.
Yeah.
The way that He wants it to go.
Yeah.
Now, there's nothing wrong with having a lesson on Wednesday. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's still the Word of God. It's still be done in the Spirit. And, giving Him glory. Really loves to worship. And that's what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah.
A few weeks ago, we were trying and then they're praying and stuff like that. I mean, you come in here to study about why we have church on Wednesdays, and that can turn into full-blown service.
Yeah.
And that's what we want.
Yeah. If you're God's, it's always going to turn back to Him.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what the vast majority of my dads.
We get together. We go over to have game night or something. What's everybody doing in the corner? They're talking about God. You know what I mean? That's what's going on. It's what's happening.
Can't help it.
Yeah, there's a conversation for about 5 minutes. How you doing? How's everything going? Blah, blah, blah.
And then you start talking about scripture you read or something.
Yeah.
We need to do one of those again. We need to do one of those again.
Oh, yeah.
I know Brandy,